Hi everybody, I'm Todd Banner. Welcome to my channel. Well, over the past weekend I received a photo assignment to photograph a basketball game between two church groups. It was in a high school basketball gym. And as people know, I shoot with a Lumix G9, and as people who shoot with Micro Four Thirds, including the G9, there's that knock against the DFD, contrast detect, autofocus. It's not phase detect, and people say it just isn't that good. Well, you know, it's pretty good. You just have to take the time to learn how to use it. So what I thought I would do is show you what I do to set the camera up for shooting a basketball game. The first thing is, and I am recording on my G9, so I can't point to things, but here are some slides to show you what I do. If you look on the mode dial, underneath the mode dial, as you probably know if you're shooting with a G9, is a little drive lever. So you've got single shot, and then the next two positions are burst shot 1, burst shot 2. I use burst shot 2. I have burst shot 1 set to just regular medium continuous drive, and then for burst shot 2, and the way you do this is you go into the Q menu, and you'll find that as one of the choices, and you just set that to super high SH1 with pre-burst. So what that does is it gives you 20 frames per second. It starts buffering shots as soon as you have pressed your shutter. So there are a few frames, I forget how many, 2 or 3 frames, that are being buffered, you know, before you even click to take a shot. And I believe after you release your shutter, there's one more left in the buffer, one more captured. So you get this series of photos. And with super high 1 at 20 frames per second, you still get autofocus, you still get live view, you get continuous autofocus. If you go to super high 2, which is 60 frames a second, you're limited to single shot autofocus. It will not do continuous autofocus. And then you go into your main menu and then click on the little camera icon, and you'll see on the first page of that, you're going to get the custom AF setting. And there are 4 different settings. Setting 1 is the general setting that's supposed to be pretty good for everything. But what you want to do is you want to do setting 3. And setting 3 is for randomly moving objects with a potential for other objects moving in front of that. So perfect for a basketball game. Then you go to your AF mode switch on the back of the camera, and you set that to AF continuous. And then you set the camera to JPEG only, and that's in the Q menu. Why do you do that? Several reasons. One, if you set it to RAW or RAW plus JPEG, you're going to fill your buffer very quickly using the super high modes. So a few seconds of RAW, you're going to have a full buffer, and then the camera is going to have to be writing that to the card, and you're going to be sitting there with stuff happening out on the court, and not going to happen. You know, the other reason to shoot JPEG is, you know, in photojournalism, generally the turnaround is so quick you don't have time to mess with RAWs. And the exposure system on the G9 really pretty much nails exposure for this type of thing. The other thing you want to do is set the white balance to auto white balance. Works fine. And remember, you're shooting in JPEG, so you have it set to the natural profile is what I use, because that's low contrast, relatively flat image. So if you do have to do any kind of color adjustments, which I didn't have to do, you've got some leeway with a JPEG with low contrast. So you do that. The other thing to keep in mind is when you shoot these super high bursts, you get a lot of images. I think I came back with around 700 images from this basketball game. So you have to be willing to call through there, because obviously most of them aren't going to be that good. Whether or not they're in focus, they're just, you know, not great. Also, you want to set your camera to auto ISO. ISOs in this situation went up to as high as 6400 and a few times over that. I was using the 35-100 f2.8 shutter priority mode. Set the shutter to 1/400th, which was giving me 4,000 to 5,000 ISO in most cases, and really the built-in noise reduction in the G9 is good enough to give you decent images up to 6400, and needs a little help past that. You know, you can do further noise reduction on your computer. Came back, had some pretty nice images, and I had situated myself at one end of the court and chose the right end, because one of the teams had a guy who was, let's just say, significantly better than everybody else, and this guy was pretty much unstoppable. So what I did was, when I figured out how good he was, and I happened to be on the end of the court that he was scoring on, I would just, you know, kind of get the camera zoomed in on him, get the camera to lock focus on him, and then follow him in, maybe sometimes zooming out as the action came towards me. And the camera did a great job of keeping him in focus. So, you know, if you're shooting high school sports or amateur sports, and you are a Micro Four Thirds shooter, and you have a G9, and I would guess a GH6, which is supposed to have even better autofocus, I believe, even though it's not phase detect, you can certainly do it and come away with results that will work for publication, will work on the web, and really you could print them. I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't. So that's shooting basketball with the Lumix G9. If this was helpful to you or interesting, please pop that like button. If you have any questions or comments, pop them down below. I sometimes find that I forget to mention something, so if you're watching the video and you see something that I need to address, absolutely ask the question. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.